Simon Mayo.
Oh, yeah.
The right time's on and we want go home.
From the very top, then.
It's good to be wise when you're young, 'cause you can only be young, but for once, enjoy yourself, have lots of fun, serve God and live, my friends, and it will never done.
Come on, you know how this goes.
Enjoy yourself.
One more time.
It's later than you think. Enjoy yourself.
We have some snacks for the journey.
While you're still in the thick.
A degree of lubrication
And here's the vibe.
for the sore throat, and we're ready to go.
Quickly as you wink. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think.
All right, well, here we go.
The BBC.
Simon Mayo, 88 to 91 FM, BBC Radio 2.
Hello and welcome. This is another Confessions podcast from your friends at Radio 2. Here comes a jingle to prove it. This is called ID Dollar.
88 to 91 FM,
Sounds a bit like dollar, is that right? I don't know.
Radio 2.
Anyway, here come the confessions. Everyone wants your forgiveness, by the way, depending on how you're feeling.
Simon Mayo, 88 to 91 FM, BBC Radio 2.
Ah, righty-ho. Welcome to another Confessions podcast from BBC Radio 2. Thank you for downloading this weekly treat. Another audio array of terrible tales from the very sinful Radio 2 listener. All seeking forgiveness from the Juggernauts of Justice, who this week have extra Juggernautess, as on Wednesday we were live from the Folk Awards, and the collective included Brother Billy Bragg and Choir Boy Kermode. Anyway, to add to your jingle collection, this is where we bring you, it's hardly a jingle really, but this is Radio 2, home of the Eider Duck. I know. Plus, as an extra bonus, here's the original Mayo jingle. Sung by who, would you say?
Mayo, Simon Mayo.
Who's that?
Daylight come and we one wake up.
Recorded off air, somewhere about 1988. That's Steve Wright doing that jingle. Thanks, Steve. Anyway, so here we go with the confessions then. And this week we have Turn to Stone. We have Steal My Sunshine. We have Boom Bang a Bang. And we have Wedding Bell Blues. Here they all come. Father Simon and the collective. I work in a busy but friendly sales office at the local builder's merchant, and a friend of mine called Fred, I think we've changed that, used to rent a small office from our company, meaning that he had to walk through our office each day to get to his. Now, as I mentioned, it's a very friendly office, and the occupants often brought in cakes, biscuits and sweets to share with their colleagues, which were put in a bowl on a table in the middle of the office for everyone to help themselves to. However, Fred never partook because he despised sweets and chocolates and thought that anyone that ate them was a weakling.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's right. Fred, I should point out, is ex-Royal Marines. He's a boxing instructor, military bearing. He prides himself on his physical health and his well-being. Anyway, we're supposed to cut down on our sugar, so...
Yeah, so maybe he's got a point.
Maybe he's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, one day at our little office, our sweet munching was interrupted by the return of Donna, a colleague who returned from having a painful kidney stone operation. Now, Donna took great delight in taking us through the whole experience, culminating in the production of said kidney stone from our handbag for us all to view. Now, we were all impressed, and I remarked that the kidney stone bore an uncanny resemblance to a well-known mini-egg produced by a well-known chocolate firm. Yeah, I know, you're ahead of me. This observation came back to me later that evening in the supermarket, so I decided to purchase said eggs so I could compare and contrast the next day as to just how similar they were to the aforementioned kidney stone.
Who knows where this is going to go? Who knows?
The next morning, I got to the office early and put the eggs in a bowl on the desk for all to share. I then went to find Donna to see her kidney stones, but as yet she hadn't arrived. Yet I impatiently grabbed them from her desk. Lo and behold, they did indeed have an uncanny resemblance to the mini eggs. But would it be just me who thought that way? What do you think? I decided to put it to the test and place the kidney stone in with the eggs to see if my workmates would spot the difference. As they arrived, I mentioned what I had done, and they in turn looked into the bowl. After some deliberation, they were able to pick out the offending stone, but I suppose that, as we'd all discussed this the night before, didn't really come as a great surprise once it had actually been pointed out what they're looking for. Everyone, that is, apart from Fred, who you may remember didn't share an office with us, but merely walked through each day on the way to his office. However, on this morning, as Fred marched in, he hesitated for a brief second as he passed the bowl. And to our amazement, Fred, the fitness freak, peered into the bowl, picked up an egg, put it in his mouth, and briskly walked out, all in one fluid movement. We looked at one another, aghast. Surely not. He surely couldn't have. Slowly I got up and walked to the bowl, but after a frantic search I realised it wasn't there. Fred had indeed
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
taken the kidney stone. The office went silent. What should we do? Who should go and tell the ex-Royal Marine boxing instructor what he'd actually put in his mouth? Unsurprisingly, I wasn't too keen, says Sam. However, it soon became clear no one else was volunteering, so I eventually went to find Fred. I found him in the kitchen, drinking cups of water, having disposed of the remaining contents of his mouth into a bin. "What's the matter, Fred?" I asked in the most casual manner. What's the matter, Fred? I said in the most casual manner I could summon. Well, Father Simon, I can't actually repeat much of what he said, other than that he'd apparently eaten a duff egg that didn't contain any chocolate at all, and it tasted absolutely vile.
Oh.
Quelle surprise. Must have been a problem on the production line, I said. And to my relief, Fred assumed that was probably what had happened. I walked back into the sales office and explained to everyone that Fred had found a bad egg in amongst the chocolate. That was the end of the matter, and no one was to ever talk of it again. Donna was a bit upset at losing her keepsake, but in the interest of office harmony, decided it was a good idea never to mention it. Incidentally, I later found out from a doctor that kidney stones are tasteless, but occasionally after removal they have chemicals applied to them before they're given back to the patient. We've since moved office and Fred no longer works from our building, so I feel it's now time to unburden my soul and seek forgiveness. Fred was always telling us how bad for us the sweets were that we used to have, and in a way I suppose he was right. Anyway, as well as from Fred, I also seek forgiveness from the well-known chocolate manufacturer who makes the eggs, as there is now a small selection of people that will never ever be able to eat this product again, and sales in our area have undoubtedly tailed off. Well, I know that you knew where it was heading, but you know the full horror of the moment. I suppose if you make a point of saying, "I'm not touching that, I am not having one of those because they are sinful," then when you do fall, the fall is mighty. What do you have, Sister Bobby?
Well, Sam, you stole Donna's kidney stones. That's the first thing. Or borrowed them. Obviously intended to put them back. You actually didn't steal them because you didn't know what was going to happen. So that seems a little unfair that you did that to Donna, and she might have wanted to keep it forever. However, actually, in the interests of, comic effect, I think it was worth losing them. So there you go. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because no matter how disciplined Fred was, and he's the one of the most disciplined people I know, no one has ever managed to resist a chocolate mini egg. There you go.
Well, we don't know that they were
so
a type
far.
of mini egg, weren't they?
Sorry.
Who knows?
Other small eggs are available.
We don't know which sort of thing they
We
were,
do.
but they're about
That big and they're
that big.
mini and they're eggs.
Anyway, what do you say, Brother Matthew?
Well, this seems a bit weird, bringing your kidney stones in for everyone in the office to have. What is that about? That's never. I'll tell you what. Guarantee if I have had my kidney stones taken out, I'm not bringing them into the office and showing them about and go, look at my kidney stones.
Think of the fun we could have with it.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Sport.
So it's a bit weird. But that said, obviously Fred is living his life very much saying, I will say no to temptation. I will not have the sweets and the crisps. And he who takes the sweets and the crisps is weak and weak-minded. And yet and he succumbed and realised I have been right all this time. If I just kept my principles and not had the sweets and the crisps, then I wouldn't have got this thing
It's
in
a
my mouth.
morality tale.
So absolutely. So it is a morality tale. Fred has come out of this the brighter because he's realised I was right to hold this view,
so
therefore I am going to forgive.
Father Simon and your forgiving drive time family. Our story goes back some 15 years to a holiday in the beautiful northwest corner of England. We'd prefer not to mention the actual name of the place for reasons that will become apparent in a bit. This was an extra special holiday for us as we had recently purchased a new but very old mobile home. Our new van, Lola, not her real name.
We've changed the name of the mobile home.
Got to change it. Had been a very grand vessel back in the day, but years of use and abuse, not to mention living in a farmer's field with the door hanging off for months, had more than chiselled away at her glory. But for us, it was love at first sight. In preparation for our first voyage, we rubbed, scrubbed and touched up her paintwork, determined to make her sparkle in the eyes of others, as she did in ours. And as the beautiful northwest corner of England to which we were headed is known for high rainfall, and wanting to be able to sit out around cosy campfires regardless of the weather, fashioned an awning from tarpaulin, washing line and old tent poles. We would all be able to laugh in the face of the rain. We'd say, "Rain, go away, we don't care." Loaded up with everything but the kitchen sink, off we went. Day one of our holiday was glorious. Sun shining, fell walking, drinkies around the campfire, while our little dog Penny, not her real name, happily played in the babbling brook. Who could possibly want for more? So as the night progressed and a few drops of rain appeared, rather than disappoint, we simply thrilled, as this allowed us to try out our new homemade awning. However, although our invention looked okay, we soon discovered the tarpaulin was too flimsy. It rippled and bowed under the weight of the rain, and when the wind picked up, ended up soaking rather than protecting us. The following morning we were greeted by yet more rain, so instead of heading out we decided to pop the kettle on, eat blueberry muffins and people watch until there was a break in the weather. This is classic British holiday activity stuff. Sitting in the front of our beautiful old Lola, our attention was grabbed by a nearby couple erecting a tent. It was clear it was a first camping expedition for them. All of their equipment was brand new, and putting the tent up was causing, shall we say, some friction. First they battled with the ground sheet, then they struggled and bickered when they tried to put the poles through. Things were now getting ugly. After what seemed like an eternity, the man angrily ripped the ground sheet off the ground, hastily gathered up the poles and fly sheet, and much to our amazement, dumped the whole lot in the bin. We were aghast. In a wink, they were slamming the car doors harshly, and they left the campsite in a huff. Another cuppa and another muffin later, my partner Stefan, not his real name, came up with an ingenious plan. Our tarpaulin had been too flimsy for an awning, but a ground sheet, well, now that'd be perfect. At this exact moment, the rain stopped and the sun began to shine. Divine intervention. So camping knife out and using our failed awning as a template, we crafted a perfect Mark II model out of their ground sheet. Then, being responsible campers, we returned the other offcuttings of the ground sheet to the bin. Cruelly, the rain soon returned, so we retreated back to Lola again. Then halfway through yet another cuppa, and much to our horror, the couple who had furiously dumped the tent returned to the campsite. We could only think that they must have got so far, then reconsidered their actions and decided to give their tent another go. Oh, help! We felt sick to the pit of our stomachs as they walked over to the bin where their tent had been unceremoniously dumped. They lifted everything out. We grew greyer by the second as we watched them stake out the ground sheet, especially as at first they didn't seem to register the giant rectangle that was missing from the floor of their tent. The penny clearly dropped when they got inside to find a rather grassy bottom, shall we say, and both jumped out, heading to the bin to find the missing bit, which we knew they would never find. Looking very confused, they then began to look around the campsite for some explanation, and it was at this point that we all decided to hide in our tiny toilet whilst begging Penny the little dog not to bark and draw attention to us and the ground sheet / awning that was flapping off the side of Lola. We stayed in the toilet for half an hour. When we eventually emerged, the couple had gone again. Genuinely distressed by the events of the day, we decided to head for the fabulous local pub to have a couple of drinks to help us recover from our recent shock. As we walked back to the campsite, who should we see but the same couple erecting what looked like another brand new tent? We could only think that they must have visited one of the villages with lots of camping shops in the surrounding areas and replaced their tent with the mysteriously missing bottom, and they got a brand new shiny one. Father Simon, we wish to seek forgiveness from that couple, albeit some 15 years late, for inadvertently forcing them to buy 2 tents for their one night away. All 3 of us are genuinely sorry. Yours in anticipation, Annie. Not her real name. Very disguised, very disguised. I suppose at what stage, when you throw something away, at what stage are you saying, okay, anybody want it? You know, because that's an interesting moral dilemma. Sister Bobby will pronounce.
Well, as soon as you put it in the bin, that is it. Is you have gone, I don't want you. I have discarded you. I'd love that conversation, though, to hear that conversation between the couple, you know, when they went off and he's in a big huff and she's got to try and placate him and go, this is silly. Look, we just need a cup of tea and a muffin, actually. And then let's go back and give it another go. And they bought another tent. I can see here that you felt guilty, but actually it's not your fault. They had discarded it. You recycled and upcycled it. Well done, you. I love the idea of you hiding in the toilet. Those things, though, not very soundproof. Did they actually notice the big canopy?
I don't know whether they noticed that the fact that the awning was actually formerly known as a ground sheet.
Matt's making faces at me. What I'm saying is those mobile homes are not very well soundproof. Yeah.
In the toilet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is,
very
with
quiet.
3 people and a dog,
Oh, I
they
see.
might have
Right.
heard
And
you.
the
that makes
fumes.
sense.
It's really easy.
Yeah.
You did nothing wrong. You recycled, you upcycled, they got a new tent. Win-win.
What do you think, Brother Murphy?
Well, here's the thing, is that when you're putting up a tent for the first time, there's a lot of pressure because you think everyone on the campsite is watching
They
you putting up the tent going, oh, they're doing it wrong, they've not put the pole through the right
You'd
thing.
think at his
Oh,
age he might know a thing or
This
two.
is hilarious, when actually no one is. But you put all that pressure on yourself and then everything goes wrong. And so, yes, I quite understand this couple deciding to jack it all in and throw it in the bin. Now, I am not a lawyer, but I would say if you put the tent in the bin, then it's pretty much fair game. That means I can come along and rifle through the bin and take the tent. Again, I'm not a lawyer. So I'm going to say definitely forgiven because, you know, everyone was happy in the end. They got a tent. They might have paid for 2 tents, but, you know, they got a tent and they got it up. So, you know, and then the rest of them were in the toilet. So everything's everywhere. All's well that ends well.
And the camping shop clearly did very well because they
Yeah,
sold
the
more
camping
tents.
shop, everyone wins.
Father Simon and the hopefully folky forgivers. I write asking for penitence with a confession that goes back some years to when I was living in Chester. I was very involved in the folk music scene in Chester, attending the yearly festival, the weekly folk club, and an open session in my local pub on Thursday nights. Lots of pubs in the city ran such sessions. Anyone could turn up and sing or play. Listeners will guess from this the standard of music ranged from excellent to full-on noise pollution. At our local session, there was one husband and wife pair who covered the full range on their own. Let's call them Paul and Mary. Paul was a great singer and guitar player, specialising in old blues and American roots music. Mary, well, let's say that Mary had as much musical aptitude as a lump of cheese. However, she obviously wanted to join in with Paul's love of making music, and she had found a way to do this. Unfortunately, it was with rhythm instruments. Large, loud, penetrating rhythm instruments that she couldn't play with any rhythm at all. She used to turn up to sessions with a whole bag full of rhythm, which she unleashed at the slightest opportunity. Most fearsome among her collection of weapons of mass dissonance was a tambourine known to the rest of the regulars as the Rochdale Fighting Tambourine. It was huge, loud, and played with such abandon and lack of talent that even non-smokers would find a reason to retire outside when she picked it up. And worst of all, she didn't just limit herself to accompanying Paul. Any singer was fair game, and if you've ever heard anyone try to sing She Moved Through the Fair with a tambourine accompaniment, you'll know how horrible it could be. One night I happened to end up sitting next to Mary. During a break in the music, she told me she was thinking of getting a bodhran, a round Irish drum held vertically on the lap with one hand and hit with a short wooden stick or bone beater. They are very popular in the folk world, but despite there being some very skillful bodhran players, they still give rise to jokes like, what's the difference between a bodhran and a trampoline? When you jump up and down on a trampoline, you have to take your boots off. That kind of thing. The thought of her with a bodhran was a very scary one, and unfortunately, she seemed really keen on the idea. She gushed on about her intended addition to her armoury, saying that, of course, it would be a proper one with a real goatskin drum skin decorated with a nice Celtic pattern. She wanted the very best and was worried that the pattern might wear off with playing, a problem common with old and well-used bodhrans. It was at this point that I said the words that would cause me so much trouble. I meant it as a complete joke. I didn't expect her to take me seriously, but she did. Oh, there's a way to avoid that, I said, but it is rather expensive. At the word expensive, I saw a gleam in her eye because she and Paul were quite well off. And obviously the fact that something was expensive only added to its appeal for her. Yes, I went on, you have to get the pattern tattooed onto the goat whilst it's still alive because it lasts a lot better that way. Oh, she said, how clever. At this point, the music started up again and ended the conversation shortly after the landlord called time and we all went our separate ways. I thought nothing more about my little joke until the following week's music session. I was at the bar when Paul and Mary arrived. Mary walked up to me, leant in close and hissed, I suppose you thought that was funny. Because she spoke in that kind of way. Apparently, she'd spent all week trying to track down a bodrum with a tattooed goat skin. Phone calls to various music instrument suppliers had proved fruitless. The local music shop had not been able to help her. The fact that the assistant had laughed at her request of a tattooed goat probably didn't help. And it was only when she told Paul that she'd been trying to get what she'd been trying to get that the penny finally dropped, and she realised that she'd been a victim of a wind-up. Of course, the tongue-loosening effects of good beer and good music meant that the word of this soon spread. Translation, I gleefully told everyone I knew. When Mary realised this, she stopped coming to the Thursday night music sessions. Alas, the Rochdale fighting tambourine was no more. So, Father Simon, I seek forgiveness. From Mary herself, it was an innocent joke not to be taken seriously. From Paul, who was on the receiving end of her ire when she realised how stupid she'd been made to look. And finally, from all the innocent and perplexed suppliers of musical instruments in the Chester area who were badgered so mercilessly in her quest for a tattooed goat. Yours, Bob. That's the tale, brother Matt. How do you read that one?
It would be very simple to just sit here and say, well, she's a bit thick, so she deserves everything that's coming her way.
Yes,
but she's very enthusiastic. You really want to get involved, didn't she? And who can blame her for that? So I am going to say I forgive just because she is a bit thick. So you know,
Bobby.
I feel sorry for Mary. I mean, OK, she's musically challenged, but she enjoyed the music. I think he's forgiven for the joke because Mary also needs a sense of humour, but he's not forgiven for not saying sorry and making sure she stayed because she left, and that's a little bit sad. Forgiven and not forgiven.
OK. Mark making a rare appearance.
Matt said, who can blame her for that? I can. I've done gigs in which people have sat in the front row adding fighting tambourine accompaniment from the audience, and tattooed bottoms aside and all the rest of it. No, absolutely. It's just... He is completely forgiven. She fully deserved that.
Billy Bragg.
Have you ever tried to tattoo a goat?
I haven't.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. I was with a goat herd for a while for my sins, and that was one of the most difficult parts of the job, really. People
Tattooing
coming, people ringing up for borons. And,
is it Boron? Is that how I
it is
said
over
it?
here. And saying, could you get it down here? First, you've got to shave it first, obviously. That's the first thing, shaving a goat. They don't like it. No. They don't like it. So I think in the interests of the folk club fans, Mark is very right. A tambourine can cut through anything. So I think I forgive him.
Dear Father Simon, my confession involves a friend who I think we can all relate to. You see, we all have that one friend who is perfect in every way. Beautiful, clever, articulate, popular, rich parents who are just as nice as they are. They always see the good in people. I think you're getting the gist. And Alison was one of those friends. She had this long, dark, wavy hair, whereas mine was mousy and wouldn't grow past my ears. She had dark skin and was always tanned because her parents took her on expensive holidays, so she looked good in white, a colour I couldn't wear due to my pale, freckly skin. Despite the differences, we were very close. I would stay at her house most weekends. We shared a mutual love of riding and horses, and we were never apart. I loved Alison like a sister, and she loved me too. Anyway, at 14, boys came along and replaced our four-legged friends, except all the boys loved Alison, especially the one I really liked, Ian Spencer. Everybody loved Ian Spencer. Even I like Ian Spencer. Alison knew I loved Ian, and in my 14-year-old brain, this was real love. Yet when he flirted with her at the school disco, she tittered and flashed her eyelashes, and, well, quite frankly, the green-eyed monster came out and I wanted to scratch her eyes out. I didn't, obviously. I remained composed, shrugged my shoulders as she snogged Ian's face off in the corner. And Ian was only the start of it. Every boy I ever liked, she ended up making out with, or going out with. I mean, what is going on? Oops. The next year, Alison moved to Southport. when her father took a new shop on. But we kept in touch, and from time to time I would go and stay with her. Then one day, many years later, she announced gleefully that she was getting married and asked me to be her bridesmaid. I, of course, said yes, through gritted teeth. Yes. We went wedding dress shopping, and of course the dress looked amazing. She looked amazing. The husband-to-be was gorgeous, and well, frankly, I hated her. All those feelings of jealousy as a child came whizzing back. She decided to have a quiet day and night before the wedding, and so Alison and I were going to get a takeaway, bottle of fizz, and an early night at her mum and dad's house, which, as it was above her dad's shop, you had to climb up a large black spiral staircase to get to. At some point, you see there are in-laws even in this confession. That's why this is such a beautifully produced show. At some point in the /coincidence, at some point in the late afternoon, we were coming down the stairs out of the apartment in our shorts and T-shirts to enjoy the sunshine. But blocking our way was Alison's dad, who decided to give the staircase a new lick of paint ahead of an impending visit from the new in-laws. Alison stepped over her dad, who hadn't started the job yet, but before I came to him, Alison's dad tried to pass by me into the apartment to get something. As Alison's dad and I passed each other, there was a stumble, and before we knew it, the pot of black paint was tumbling down the staircase, spilling thick black industrial paint all over Alison's shoulders, neck, bare arms and short-clad legs. The paint went absolutely everywhere, even in the hair she had just had done with gold highlights for the wedding.
Oh.
Bit of a mess. Well, Father Simon, all hell broke loose. Alison was screaming in the street, and her father was getting it in the neck from his wife for not balancing the paint pot properly. How could he be so irresponsible? How could he think to leave the paint on the stairs? I, of course, immediately went to console Alison, and later that night I sat on the bathroom floor as she scrubbed her skin raw, trying to get the paint off for her special day. And although she looked beautiful as she walked down the aisle, there were still red blotches on Alison's face, her neck and her arms, and to be honest, she didn't manage to get all the paint off. Specks of it were still in her newly highlighted hair and on her skin. Her dad was pretty much shunned on the wedding day, and his speech went down like a lead balloon. None of the females in the room would give him the time of day apart from me. This was mainly because I knew he'd done nothing wrong. You see, it was entirely my fault. It was me who knocked over the pot of paint, and quite deliberately, I may add. And I...
What?
I'm just saying what Sarah says.
Double what or triple what? That's ridiculous.
This is a triple what. It's a what and a what and a what. Not only did she knock the paint, but she did it on purpose. I watched it tumble and splatter all over Alison. So I need to ask for forgiveness. Fat chance, Sarah. From Alison's father, for him getting the blame for the paint pot toppling, to her mother who spent all night with a wailing daughter, to the groom who did nothing to deserve the red paint-marked bride who walked down the aisle. But of course, Alison is the one I need real forgiveness from. I'm sorry for my feelings of spite and jealousy, and my overcoming desire 20 years later to get revenge in the most humiliating way possible for a boy who I don't even remember what he looks like. But it was the aforementioned Ian Spencer. I wanted to snog him, says Sarah. Just for clarification.
We all do, we know that.
On the bright side, I had a lovely time at the wedding, and although I do say so myself, I for once looked better than Alison.
Brilliant! Yes.
Keep digging, Sarah. Funnily enough, we lost touch when her and her husband moved to the States. You're kidding me, really? But if you're listening, Alison, I'm so very sorry. No, you're not. Wow. Okay, so I don't think Sarah's that sorry particularly, but because 14-year-old Alison snogged Ian Spencer, she gets a pot of paint over her head. Well, let's see what Sister Bobby's looking very stern, by the way, now. Yes.
I'm speechless, to be honest, because there's no jealousy between friends, not real friends. So you should have learnt that early on, that actually she's not really your friend. I've got lots of really lovely friends that are richer, more beautiful, more successful than me, obviously, and done really well. I'm not jealous of any of them. We're just all really good mates. We just laugh at each other's misfortunes. Sarah, I wouldn't want to be your friend in any shape or capacity. That's what I'm saying. Because also, who does that
Don't
to
cross
someone
Sarah.
on their wedding day? And to get dad into trouble as well. And also, you missed out on some really good holidays to America. Had you been a good friend, you could have got some trips abroad as well. So you lost out all the way around.
Often when the confession is written, it's written to try and make the person who writes it look in their best light, where we'd be, oh, that's really very nice. I don't think so. You've done this very. Maybe you did. Maybe you don't care. Anyway, let's see what the novice makes of it.
You can't help but feel that some confessions are best left untold. And Sarah, really, this has got elements of Carrie, Hitchcock. It's all in there, and psychotherapy might well be on the agenda.
Is that right?
Because you don't seem that bothered, Sarah. And to be honest, Alison never did anything. By the sounds of it, you never told her that you were jealous. You never ever said, "Please don't," flirt with him.
I think she knew that Sarah loved Ian Spencer.
The suggestion is, but we don't. She never confronted and said, "Please don't go after Spence. I'd like to myself."
Yeah. Yes.
But she didn't. So mad as a stick, Sarah, out there in the community. Good luck to you, but not forgiven.
Can I be the one to stand up for? I mean, it's taken a degree of nerve, I would say, for Sarah. And as Sim's already pointed out, most of the time in these confessions, the person who gets wronged in the confession is made out to be a bit of a buffoon by the person who's doing the confessing. And this time, Sarah said, I was entirely in the wrong. So I think we should really start. I mean, she's been honest here, and which of us can say we've never been jealous, apart from Bobby? Bobby apparently never suffered.
Well, we
from
might have been jealous, but we might not have knocked paint over our best friend.
Well, maybe not gone that far, but still, I mean, everyone was fine in the end. They're still married, they're in the States, they're doing fine. The parents are still very rich with a massive house, by the way, that's got a spiral staircase in there. Look at us with our massive house that needs painting when the in-laws are coming round. So I am definitely going to forgive, because good for Sarah. I'm very much in your corner,
Okay.
Sarah.
Well, they were this week's confessions with added Billy Bragg and Mark Kermode for extra fun. If that provoked a dark thought in your soul and you'd like to share, then send it on an email, please, confessions@bbc.co.uk. If you missed any of my drive time shows in the last week, thanks. You can listen back online. You can download it to your smartphone or tablet with the BBC iPlayer radio app, which is a very lovely thing. Monday, we welcomed author Jane Harper into the book club to talk about The Dry, her debut novel. Julia Donaldson and Helen Oxenbury dropped in on Tuesday to talk about, because they've collaborated at last together, hooray. The Giant Jumperee was their new book, and Julia read some of it. Wednesday, we were only live in the Royal Albert Hall, thank you very much indeed, and on Foodie Thursday, Nigel served up his tipsy cider cake. I'm off on holiday next week, compulsory family time. So your next Confessions podcast, Friday 21st of April, put it in your diary. And if you made it to the end of last week's podcast, you had to get in touch by tweeting, "Keep it groovy, but only in an ironic way," which kind of makes sense last week. Thanks to Joseph Wigley and Joe Evans and lots of other people who aren't called Joe, who did just that. Anyway, this week's secret code phrase is, Billy Bragg tattooed my goat. Thanks for downloading. Thank you for listening. See you shortly.